Manchester Board of Selectmen to order. If anyone is recording, please let me know, and also our minutes are being taken by Gail, and obviously KPM TV is doing that. So I want to start with a moment of silence. We have Sergeant Andrews, who passed away a week ago, I believe. He's been on the force for quite some time. I guess he retired in September 2011. His family, they've been wonderful supporters of living in the town, and I want to acknowledge his work and his practice. So a moment of silence. Okay, all right. Tonight we have an interesting meeting. We're here for about an hour, and then we're going off to Essex. So, Greg, do you want to get started on our budget development updates?
I'm happy to. I didn't know if there's any comments prior, any other comments before we start? Any non-business items on the agenda?
Yeah.
Are we going, you mean
Item 0.
items?
Items
That
here.
was it.
Any other
Yes.
public items on the agenda? Anything else?
Okay, as long as we're not to 7 yet.
So in terms of the budget, a little bit of good news. The estimate for the county retirement system that we had plugged into the preliminary budget, about 20,000 higher than it needed to be. So it's moving in the right direction, which is helpful. The finance committee is in their process of reviewing. We had DPW last week. They'll be doing police and fire and harbor this coming Wednesday, and moving on to school on the 16th of January. So things are progressing smoothly with that. I think one of the bigger questions that we talked a little bit about a couple of meetings ago was how best to manage the fund balance and our estimated receipts. In terms of the fund balance, I think the focus is rightfully not on operating, but rather on capital items, or potentially putting additional dollars into the OPEB trust account in order to take advantage of compound interest earnings over time. So that's a discussion I think that you and the Finance Committee should have when you meet. In terms of meeting with them, I would suggest your meeting on the 22nd, your next meeting, will be a Tuesday rather than a Monday because of the Martin Luther King holiday. And instead of meeting again on Wednesday, perhaps we just combine the Tuesday and Wednesday meetings so that we get them in here with you on that Tuesday to go over some of the key issues. And that being one of them being how best to manage the fund balance and then estimated receipts. So I didn't know if there are other issues that you have flagged as you have started to review, and if anything sort of jumps out at you as needing attention, you want more information, etc.
I'm just taking
So, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not at all convinced that we should be putting more money into the OPEB trust. We're far ahead of the game on that, and our projections are pretty good for it. I think there are a bunch of ways to do the math that it doesn't actually provide a significant financial benefit to us, and especially if we're talking about taking some of that money and putting it into capital projects that would otherwise have to be deferred, with construction costs increasing well out of proportion to inflation. I think they're 7% year over year for the past 10 years. I think delaying capital projects at the expense of putting more money into the OPEB fund actually won't work out for us, and will have the effect of delaying by whatever period of time the capital projects that members of the town could enjoy. So I'm yet to be convinced that that's a good idea. And as far as the notion of having a lower tax increase and using our underestimated lower local receipts to fund the departments, that's an interesting idea. I'd like to see the year-over-year projections. I need to get my mind around that. I haven't considered that before, and I need to make sure that works year over year for the long run. That's all that comes to mind right now.
Greg, I had in an email to you kind of mentioned my concerns about making sure that we, pun intended, shore up the harbor budget, but you indicated in your notes that you're feeling comfortable between the police and the harbor budgets,
Right.
which they're gonna review Wednesday night, so we can get a look at it. And
Yeah.
I just think it's, so much work has been done out in the harbor, that we now need to make sure we can manage all the hard work that's been done.
My topic is more about the school funding mechanism. We talked a little about this earlier in terms of it's more long range versus just pertaining to this year's budget, but it could have some indicators, particularly on the things that Leon was talking about in terms of trends and data. I know they're in the process. We haven't gotten anything back, but the concept of borrow early, set a rate, look at the opportunities for that so we can project. Some of that might be an interesting conversation to have with the schools. So, and when we have the update with them, to be able to see where they are with that. And against, capital projects in general, that general question has come up between the FinCom and the board of, is it better to borrow versus use reserves at this point, and just continuing that thread as we look more detailed into the budget.
I had a couple of questions on some things, and one of which is actually, it doesn't pertain entirely to this, but more about funding of the school. Are we ever able to do privately held debt? Could we, I just wonder if there would be people in town who might be interested in doing a loan as opposed to going commercial?
So the finance committee brought that up the other night as well.
Oh, interesting.
The short answer is yes, it's an option.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot more management to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can hire someone to do that for you, just like you hire bond counsel now.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an option if you're interested in pursuing it.
I'm curious. I wouldn't know how it would work, but somebody mentioned it to me, and thought it might be an interesting option to look at in terms of.
So it would be difficult to pull that together as quickly as the commercial approach. It all depends on what you think the market's going to be doing in the next little bit. Some feel that we should lock in as quickly as possible. Others feel no, that we really ought to stall and the rates will be better in 2 years rather than they are now. And just do temporary borrowings, anticipation notes. And that would give more time to do the sort of local private sale of bonds. So it is something we can look into if there's
Has
interest.
it been done in town before? Do you know, with any other school project?
Boy, I'm not aware that it's been done. But, I'm not aware of a prohibition.
I would have thought it would be really hard to find private funding right now for projects like that. Because interest rates are going to be really low, and most private dollars are going to want to be someplace else.
Mhm. I would, you know, I think that it might be perhaps less of a, even though it would be a moneymaker, it would not be viewed as just solely a moneymaker for people in town. Also sort of
Or an ideological.
So are you suggesting that we pursue what the mechanism would be to do that? To just do some research and see what it would be?
If it isn't too time consuming to look into it as an option, I mean, it was brought to me, and if somebody else, you know, from the FinCom mentioned it as well, because that's not a very different person brought it up to me, so it's kind of interesting that someone brought it up to the FinCom and someone brought it up to the Board of Selectmen. So I think it merits a little bit put into it.
And ask bond council?
That's where I would start, or town council, I could,
Yeah, why don't we just start asking bond in town and see what their thoughts are and.
And I do have, sorry, I don't want to be gobbling
that's
up
okay.
time, but I wanted to ask clarification on when we're looking at the tax base, the new growth. What precisely is consider? I did read through, but I mean, just what precisely is new growth?
the new growth is any new construction. So it's a new house, or it's a
Right.
renovated house, it's a renovated business. So it's any new structure that's out there. And so it's the value of that new construction and then the new taxes that those new constructions bring in.
And there's that much anticipated that we'll be having?
It's been pretty steady over the last half dozen or so years, if not more. We're conservative in that estimate, but it's around $20 million in new construction, and that's generating in the north of 200,000 a year in new taxes.
Okay, I guess that's really, I have a lot of, different, but that's basically it. I did have, I have had a number of people just approach me with concerns about, as we all have heard, taxes going up and being able to afford to stay in town.
Well, I think that's part of the strategy we're trying to look at with the home and adapting the whole person, so. Yes,
Bring that
so
up.
well do noted, I would say. I understand that, good. All right, so you'll follow up also with the finance committee to meet on the 22nd?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And the 16th is the harbor meeting at 6:30, I believe, at the
Yeah.
Legion.
Yes.
And then 7:00 here for the joint board with the schools.
School.
So I don't know if anyone will be able to go over for a little while over there. We should.
I'm going to go.
Yeah,
I'll go to that.
And then come back to the school piece.
So I had someone approaching me about that as well.
Okay, so if you can make sure you're there, that would be great. That can then we'll divide and conquer a little.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, any other budget pieces or are we good? Good?
I'm good. It's really was your what concerns or additional questions you may have.
I think that's generally where we are at this point, so.
I do have one more
Okay.
that someone also brought to me regarding staffing, beach staffing, and that they were concerned that during the weekends, nobody is checking parking at Tux Point anymore. And this person said that she goes down routinely, and a couple times she decided to go check, and she said there were so few Manchester stickers and many, many stickers from other towns. That it, the by and far the vast adjustment. So vast percent amount, but that if they could potentially fund someone to go back to Tux Point during weekends, that would be appreciated.
So one of the challenges there is that, everyone says, "Oh, I'm going to the event at the Chowder House," or
There was no event. The days she
Oh, okay.
checked, she
All
said
right.
there were no events
Okay.
going on.
that typically,
And
because
I
that's one thing
agree.
that happens a lot. is
And that's what one of the other is there a possibility of giving I don't know, and you can't give a one-time parking pass that someone's not going to then go and Xerox or whatever. So I don't know what to do there.
it's a bit of a conundrum how to best to enforce.
But if you do have someone there monitoring the parking, and they say they're going into
Event.
into an event, that's you may get a few who will use that excuse, but I think you're not going to get that as readily as you would just someone going and parking.
Be interesting to ask Cheryl what she thinks
Right.
in terms of how to manage event parking and general parking, at Tux Point. So that's a.
And they could always have a list. I mean, that's, you have a list of named people attending events. It's not, it's not
But there are ways to do it. Yeah.
right.
So maybe just have Cheryl take a look and say it's come up for more question. Good. All right. That it on budget?
Good.
All right, good. Revised fire department permit fees. This was an interesting document. Greg, you want to just take us through real quick, or?
So in your packet is a list of various permits that we charge relatively small fees for, and doing a comparison with our neighbors, found that many of our fees are low compared to them, and so Al and some of the lieutenants sat down and went through them all and have come up with a recommended fee amount. So some fees are going up substantially in terms of a percentage basis, certainly. Total dollars for any one person is not that significant, but nonetheless it is an increase. So you see the current fee and then the recommended fee, those last two columns. So it's their recommendation that you would proceed with approving the far right-hand column, the recommended fee.
Any background on like how long the existing fees have been in place? Like years?
It's been years. It's been years.
And I mean, a lot of these, I wonder if we've ever even
Yeah.
written a permit for some of these items
Right.
too.
Right.
They need to be on the list, but
So some are very infrequent. I didn't print out that page. He actually did show us
what they'd actually.
the volume on all of these are typically. I did not include that though.
So the one question I had was the beach permits for the beach fires. Is that,
That's freestyle. I think that's the open air public cooking.
oh, okay. Because if I was looking, I thought, okay, just want to make sure if there was a fee for that. I
Yeah,
didn't realize if there was.
I think that open air burning is pretty.
Is- Okay.
So, did have a question about a few. What does tank and container refer to?
I'm sorry.
What does tank and container refer to?
Which one are we looking at?
Tank, it's under flammable gas storage, tank and container.
Seventh up from the bottom on the first sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Tank and container. Yeah.
I'm sure it's got something to do with the gas tank.
Not sure how that's different from a gas storage, but
I don't know.
I'm not sure. It seemed like it's very similar to a gas tank, flammable gas storage
Right.
of some sort.
So that was one question I had. And then on some of these, like false alarm, we, according to this chart, we're the only ones who charge anything at all, and they want to double it from 100 to 200. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but I'm wondering why nobody else charges for that and we do. And then I have, I think some of these are going to be a little, may potentially be a bit of a surprise to people, like the model rocket, the dumpster, and the open air burn. Fairly steep increases for these. I don't know how many people are affected by them.
So that open air burn is for the season. It's not every time. So it's you get one permit for the season.
Okay,
All right.
that makes sense.
When it says special seasonal decorations, is this, what's that for? I mean, you can't have a real, like a real pines or anything inside of any commercial buildings, right? So,
Right.
and then I did have a question though about the fees that are being set from each town. What is this actually based on? Did somebody say, okay, for us to generate a fire report, it costs this much money, or
This is really based on simply who else is, what are our neighbors charging?
well, and that's what is it a number that's grabbed out of the air, or which I doubt? It's just I don't know.
In terms of history, I don't know the full
Yeah.
history of these.
I
We could certainly have Al or someone from the department come in.
yeah, I'd be
give more
curious to know.
background.
Because
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
on the 22nd.
but I won't be here. I'm gone that, I won't be.
Which meeting is it going to be at?
22nd,
22nd. Yeah, I'll be out of town.
and I'm gone.
Oh, both of you.
We may
I'm
not
out of
be having
town.
a meeting on the 22nd.
Well,
Yeah,
we
make
need
sure
to
everybody's
verify
here.
that.
Yeah, let's make sure we do that. Okay, yeah, because I don't know if Arthur's back. I think Arthur's back, but
But we'll have to
Right.
double check that.
yeah.
Are we not
Can you figure that out?
allowed to meet on a Monday?
Yeah,
That's a
well, I think we'll hold it as long as we, yeah.
No, we can. There's no prohibition against it.
I'm just curious because
Sort of convention, but
What's that? I missed that, I'm sorry.
meeting on the Monday, the
Oh,
holiday.
Yeah, I'm not here. No, that matters, but I made it back for the 22nd.
oh, I
Yeah.
see. Okay. All right, well, you know what, we have to just see if we have a quorum. That's the key.
Right.
Arthur's back on Friday, so we'll think about it.
So maybe if there's questions on these, we could get individual ones, we could either get them to you or Al, and he could just reply, and then we could get them
yes.
approved to the next one.
Yeah.
It just feels
That-
like there's
that'd
a
be
few
fine.
questions from some people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll be happy to mail in questions.
yeah, I was gonna say, if you have any questions specific, send them to Greg, we'll get them off to Al, we can get a response back and just go from there. So we'll hold to vote on this until our next meeting, but at least let's get the questions answered. Okay? And they wouldn't take effect until July 1st? Would we launch them at that point? When do they typically take effect? Immediately?
You can, a month later or
Okay.
July 1st, it's your choice.
Okay, so that's our plan.
That works.
All right, the 375th Anniversary Planning Committee, and Sonia, thank you for following up and doing all your hard work in getting those folks organized. We have a slate of people that have stepped forward, which I'm very excited about. And tonight, I'd like to verify with the committee that you will in fact appoint these folks and look for someone from the Board of Selectmen to help liaison with this committee, just to make sure that we're connected to the process, so.
I'm willing to do that individual as long as that's how it sits. A liaison, not active 24/7 on it, just because there's so much else.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have Adele Ardone. Oh, okay. Yeah, we understand that. All right, but Chris Bertoni, Erica Brown, Jim Brown, Tom Keogh, Sherry Lampierre, Cheryl Marshall, Miriam McAvoy, Elaine Pearson, Chris Thomas, Joe Sabella, and Muffin will be our liaison. So,
I'll shoot you some. Yeah.
all right, great. So I'll take a motion to appoint the folks that I just read.
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And please thank them very much for stepping forward. And
I probably should have mentioned it in the budget update with Greg. Is there money budgeted?
There's not specific money budget at this point, no. So that's something to think about,
I mean, I
what that
think
number might be.
if you put a committee together, then they're gonna need some senior.
well, we should get some idea.
Yes,
what
there's
that is.
fundraising that needs to go along with it, but you have to have a little to raise a little. So I think somewhere in this budget plan, we need to talk in the line item.
Mhm.
And I think I don't, Cheryl's on this committee, but I don't think that, it should be its own budget. I don't think it should land within the Parks and Rec
Right.
Even the selectmen's budget.
somewhere, or its own line item.
All right, very good. All right, so we'll move forward with that. Consent agenda is the Board of Selectmen minutes and the non-renewal of Superfine. I did have a couple modifications on the minutes, so I'll pull those, but why don't we just take these?
I'm gonna pull them out because I wasn't
Okay. So let's pull out the Board of Selectmen minutes for December 17th, and we can vote on the non-renewal for Superfine.
there. I'll vote that I will make a motion that we approve the non-renewal certification for Superfine.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Did anyone else have any comments on the minutes?
I did.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get them in my house. Let's get down to it. Where'd they go? It was just, there was a public comment that was made, and it was a quote about someone was being thanked for their work with the Friends, and it was EH as opposed to the word the. That's all. It's just a little. I can't find what
Ellen.
Yeah,
Okay.
spell check doesn't work when you want
Okay, so you have it, Gil? Okay. So my question was, when we were talking about the Chowder House project,
it to. Mm-hmm.
and you indicated in the minutes that Chuck was looking at project process, and we'd asked him to do that. I thought we'd asked him to come back to us with the summary of that, but if that wasn't in the minutes,
Mm-hmm.
let's put them in this week's minutes, because I just want to make sure that we have a follow-up from DPW on the procedures and process that they have put in place. Okay. Okay. Well, leave it and put it into this minutes as a, just, yeah, just a follow-up on the process and their, when their updates will come on projects. We've talked about this, correct? Okay. And then the other thing, there was one statement where, I think it was a little misleading in the piece where we said that the Board of Selectmen were not aware of what the town administrator was doing.
Yeah.
How broad is, that was the literal quote, how broad his responsibilities were.
Right.
You were not aware of how broad his responsibilities were.
Okay,
Change that?
well, the intent of it is, it's not, I thought it was that we didn't have our regular communication check-ins, and therefore, when we were looking at responsibilities and goals, we weren't reporting back, so we didn't understand everything that was going on because we hadn't been communicating at that level. So I don't know how we want to phrase it, but I don't want to, it's not that we're not aware of what he does, I guess is my point.
So the breadth of his responsibilities.
Mhm. That wasn't the way I remembered it, but I think we understand. What we didn't have was a clear communication channel that between the board and the town administrator that detailed everything that he's doing in and above and beyond his goals and responsibilities. So my intent of that comment was to say that we need to have a better dialogue over time, and it's not that we're not aware of it, but that we just have to have a better dialogue. So. And if you don't want to change the minutes, we can just amend these to cover it, but it's not, yeah,
I'll change it.
Yeah.
That's no problem at
yeah,
all.
okay.
You know, the board's selectmen, looking for clear communication, open channels of communication that detail everything that's going on to create a better dialogue between the town administrator and the board of selectmen.
Yeah, on a more regular basis. And this is a joint, this is between, it's both ways. So it's the board and the town administrator working together. It's not just the town administrator has to do it. It's that we as a board, together with Greg, need to make sure that happens.
I'm gonna put that.
Yep, that's fine. Okay. Everybody okay with that? All right. Okay, so with that said, there's 3 of us here that can vote the minutes. I'll take a motion for the December 17th minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of December 17th as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Eliza.
Yep.
Okay. Correspondence, Greg?
Did we do Superfine? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did
We did
Superfine,
okay.
yes.
Sorry about that.
Not done.
Superfine
All right,
done.
good.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they're closed.
Correspondence, the most of them are FYI. The one concerning the annual Mass Municipal Association meeting is coming up, and voting delegate for Maya issues. I don't know if any of you are planning to attend, and if so, it would be appropriate for you to be the voting delegate. If not, I will be attending, and I'm happy to be your proxy on those.
That's the 19th. I'm not sure if I am or not. I may be taking someone back to school, but I'm happy to have Greg do the policy. So let's just plan to do that. Do we need to vote you?
So there's just that form that needs filling out. Ask for a vote, or is it just fill in the signature? Go ahead and vote. Go ahead and vote, and that
Who's
authorizes.
got the phone?
Yeah, that's the form. No, I didn't see what it says. By vote of the board.
All right, well, why don't we just vote to be fair? So I'll take a motion to appoint Greg as the designee for the voting delegate.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. All right, so you're formally in. We'll sign the paperwork. You're good to go.
Yep. The others are basically FYIs.
Okay. So
Clean up at the substation,
trail work.
some trail work, and then another channel change from Comcast Xfinity.
All righty. So, town administrators report?
I'll start with a bit of a blitz of emails and correspondence regarding Ocean Street.
How many people on the board were copied on the meetings?
We all were.
Okay,
Yeah.
so everybody's seen it. Okay.
I think we've seen most of them.
Well,
twice.
I think that they,
They went to, some went to some and some to others. So eventually, I think they all came to all of this, but I don't know.
that's my question,
Oh.
because I
I
think
was
that,
just assuming, but
yeah, so there could be, and I'm just saying this because there were so many and so many residents who were deeply concerned about this and took the time to share it, then I want to make sure that everybody.
Maybe I didn't. I got
Then
them.
chances are I didn't get them all.
So I would just say if we can go through and just.
So I
maybe
don't know if
Sonia-
I have them all.
Well, and so that's why I'm saying, I know that Chuck had a few, you had a few. I have all the ones that I forward whatever you weren't on to you,
So
so.
I only saw 3.
Yeah, we definitely didn't get
All right, so we need to just do an audit. I want to make sure that we capture it and that we've got it on record, that
Right.
those folks actually took the time to write something and that we've got it detailed, so that's the first thing. But anyway, so based on all those emails,
So a lot of concerns of, a lot of people were concluding that Ocean Street was going to be abandoned. And even if that were a proposal, it takes a town meeting vote to do that. So it's a very involved process. So the intent of the grant application was to get some monies to look at some options for mitigating the effects of larger storm events and sea level rise on White Beach and the impact to the road there and properties in that neighborhood. The title of the grant application probably was led to some misunderstandings because the title was abandonment of. One of the grant criteria was to look at what they call living shoreline, restoration of living shorelines. And to make a complete living shoreline, you would need to abandon a portion of Ocean Street that's right in front of White Beach. So I think that was the genesis of a lot of the concerns. There were a lot of comments, we're talking a handful of different people responding, but nonetheless, those folks were expressed concern about a grant application going forward without informing the neighborhood. We have not done that as a matter of practice. Typically, we gather the neighborhood after we know a grant's been received. We submit a lot of grant applications, and a lot of them don't come through. So, I'm not.
Which may be something that people don't understand. The
Right.
volume of grants that we do try to go after and what that process is.
I would say the majority of grants aren't successful. If you bat 300, you're doing quite well in the grant world. So I'm a little hesitant to always commit to public outreach prior to grants being submitted, but the concerns raised certainly would cause one to pause and say, well, maybe we should be doing that. That's something to think about going forward. So the concerns expressed were, we're getting rid of a cherished public road that is along a stretch of the ocean that is unparalleled, really, in the town. There isn't another stretch of public road that really matches what Ocean Street provides. So there's that concern. I think there's some misunderstandings that some work could lead to worse flooding of property. The intent is just the opposite, to try to protect properties better than what is currently there. So I think the real question is how best to move forward. So some lessons learned and how best to communicate. I do think the study is worth pursuing if we get the funding. That's a big if. It'll be a very competitive grant round. We'll know in another couple of weeks whether or not we were chosen. The work doesn't need to be done anytime soon if something is recommended. I think we have time, but I think we also need to start putting plans together, because when something happens, you want that plan already done. If you have a big storm that wipes something out, it's too late to do the planning for what should replace it. So I do think there's real value in planning ahead and getting things on, organizing, getting consensus. That may not be easily achieved in all cases. There'll be multiple opinions, but that's with anything we do. There are multiple opinions, and we try to pick the best solution that we think is best for everybody. Um, So that one request, one letter has asked you to pull the application and not apply. Um, I would advise against doing that, but you certainly have that option. I think that if the grant were to come through, I feel confident we can have a public process that lets all voices be heard. So,
And I think last March was a large indicator of the issues that we are currently facing in that area of town and are gonna continue to face. And that's when the storms come in, the roads go out, the road goes out. So we need to start to have serious conversations and thinking about how we're gonna handle some of that. And if this grant is something that will help us put information on paper with the use of professionals, we need to do it. Doesn't mean we're gonna do it. Yeah, it doesn't mean we're gonna do it in the long run, but I just think not seizing an opportunity to make an effort to get some grant money is a mistake. We need to go after the grant and see what happens. We've been fortunate with grant money and learned a lot about other projects. This can just be another one on the list.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and to be responsible in managing these assets, the only way for us to do that responsibly is to obtain as much data as we can. And we certainly haven't made a policy of abandoning or retreating from properties, but we certainly have made a policy of going to look at all of our options and to make informed decisions, and that's what this is about, making informed decisions and planning. So I don't think it would be responsible to yank the grant proposal. I do think it's important to communicate to residents what exactly it is we're doing, calm them down a bit, because obviously we're not blindly going to be going and discharging public roads. We can't even do that. So I think some communications is in order, but I think it's still incumbent on us to do whatever research we can to plan as best we can for the future.
I'd be curious, how many property owners will be most directly affected if we were to pursue road abandonment?
well, so it's a little challenging to answer just because if indeed you were to eliminate a section of Ocean Street, it would just be in front of White Beach.
Okay.
So
And-
people no one is blocked from getting to their property. Now people have two options now, whereas if that were to happen, there would only be one option.
So that's
So-
a public beach, correct?
Yes, it is.
And the other side of the road is all private?
Yes.
Will people still have access to the beach then? And then what becomes the barrier to the private I guess, and one part where this is coming from is someone did reach out and say, I looked out and people are walking on my property, measuring things, and it was in the marsh area. And the property owners hadn't been asked prior to this.
I'm not sure what that was about. That was not part of this study.
Okay, it wasn't? Well, I think that's a point that could
I
be
don't know what-
clarified. It was actually, there was something in one of the letters as well about that.
Yeah, there was, and I don't know what that's about. That was not part of this study. We have not done
We haven't
anything.
done anything because
Wow.
we don't.
The study has not gotten underway.
Hence more misinformation.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Good to
If-
know.
If for some reason we're on someone's property, we need to let them know, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just general courtesy,
And
if nothing else.
well, that's what I would have thought. And, don't misinterpret me. I do think that we need to do this, apply for the grant. I think that we have to look at and understand what we're coming up against.
So I think there's a couple things we can do. One is I rather than trying to contact everybody about every grant that we're writing, we could post all the grants that we're applying for on our website on a continuous basis. So if anybody wanted to see what we were looking at, they could go to the list of the grants that are out there. If something piques their interest,
Sure.
there'd be a little descriptor of where it's going, what's happening. So there's a way to proactively show what are the grants that we're actually pursuing if people are interested in that. I think it's really important that we contact, that all the folks in that neighborhood that have written letters or been talked to ancillary to this, that we do put a meeting together with that neighborhood to clarify whatever questions they have about this, but also to clarify the Board of Selectmen's position relative to this is informational. It will go through a complete process going forward, and that none of this will be acted upon, but as stewards of making sure that we're doing the right thing around all of the issues that we have to get that information. So, and we may not even get the grant, so it will be a point anyway, but I think it's in process. So I would do a couple things. One is make sure we catalog all of as many of the communications that we have, that people have written into, and that we've got a document on record of all the communication that came through. Post any grants that we have going forward that we're applying to on a regular basis up on the website, just say applying for grants. And the third, I would say, is to reach out to the folks, and whether it's conference call or meeting or whatever it may be, that you and Sue Brown get together and have a conversation with everyone together. I know there've been a lot of individual conversations, but I think it's good for everybody to hear the same thing. Does that kind of cover most of it?
So do that sooner rather than later. Don't wait till
Yeah,
till we know about the
get it.
grant. Or,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, when is the grant due? When will we find
I'll
out?
double check. I thought it was sometime this month. but-
Okay. Well, I would just reach out to them and say that, we're in process, but we'd like to get it, it's gonna take a while to set a meeting. So I would try to reach out as soon as possible to set that date. So, there's Ocean Street, but I do think the proactive side, rather than trying to contact everybody when we're doing a grant, is just email us, that would be smart. Okay. Alrighty.
So the board trainings are set up. We're actually up to 25, 24, 25 for
Awesome.
Thursday.
That's
and
great.
it's 18. Oh, good.
18
We're up to
on
18.
Saturday. Is there a maximum number for those? 'Cause
We have,
Doing them at the
we could-
chapel. So
we could have like 40 at each session.
good.
I'm excited.
And it's still
Yeah.
6 and I'm not.
So it's, 69 for Thursday and 8:30 to 11:30
I'll be doing one of them.
on Saturday. So this is something that we want to do on a regular basis. We'll use some lessons learned from this one, what works and what maybe is not as well received, and do some fine tuning, but offer ongoing trainings. So I think it's a good effort. So I thank Alan and Susan for leading the charge and pulling things together here. The ZBA appeal, just sort of an FYI, just so you know what's going on. It's taking another trip to the courts. Maybe the second time around in recent history. It's had a long history, going back decades. No real action on your part, just giving you an update that's out there. The senior center development, the possibility of sharing space at the old cricket building continues to advance. We're waiting to hear back from the owner, who's been away for a little bit, but he is agreeable to a 10-year lease arrangement. And longer term, he has some real interest in the senior center being there permanently. So we still need to hear some details about what a lease might look like. We've sketched out how we could use the space and how we would renovate it, but it has some real potential. And stay tuned. Have an update for you, hopefully, certainly by your next meeting. If it for some reason doesn't work out, we'll certainly then go back to examining some of the other lands and come up with a recommendation. So we'll see how this advances.
Great.
But it's encouraging. It's a hopeful development. Mentioned that the North Shore Coalition, which is an effort that MAPC sponsors, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, mayors and managers of the North Shore communities meet relatively regularly. Focus has been on transportation issues and housing of late. They rotate the meetings, and the next meeting will be here on the 15th of January. And if your schedule allows, it would be great to have one or two of you be able to attend.
Here in this room?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
it'll be right
Oh.
here.
And how long do they typically?
It's usually an hour and a half.
Okay.
So it's at 9 o'clock on the 15th. So usually by 10:30, we're wrapping up.
I'd like to go. I'll see if I can get out of.
Yep. Another possible meeting for you to attend if you can fit into your schedule or have the interest. But one of the recommendations in the master plan is to look at what's called a 40R zoning district. And 40R meaning 40 residential. And one of the advantages of a 40R is the state does provide funding to help offset some of the cost of residential impacts to a community. And that's an ongoing support. It's not just a one-off. It is ongoing for multiple years. So Sue Brown has been in touch with folks at the state who could give more details on what a 40R can do. And if you'd like to join in on that meeting, we certainly try to work around your schedule.
Do you know when or where? Where what
Next
time?
couple of weeks, we're looking. So if you can maybe give me or Sonia some dates, that would work for you. And
The
we'll
other
try
thing
to
I would say
coordinate.
is that for all of us, the benefit for those that won't be able to attend, if we can get a summary
Yes,
of
absolutely.
our meetings, an overview, and maybe a presentation on it would be valuable.
I'd be interested in going. If it's any time before the 22nd or after the 3rd of February.
Yeah, we're hoping to do it before the.
And is it a daytime or an evening?
This would it could be an evening time if that's better. I think they were flexible.
Right, so I will just email you some dates
Yeah,
for Sonia.
Sonia, not to give Sonia the days. So do a better job at coordinating than I will.
Thank you.
And just mentioning the senior tax work-off program, just another announcement that is an option available to folks. We have just a handful of folks who typically take advantage of that. There's probably more out there that could. So this is for seniors who 65 or older who, depending on their income levels, they could qualify to do some work for the town and get a reduction of their property tax bill. It's about a little over 100 hours worth of work, and you get about a $1,200 reduction in the tax bill. So those are the main things. You mentioned the Harbor Advisory Committee meeting next week on the 16th. That'll be focused on Long Beach area and eel beds off of Long Beach and the high volume of boating activity over there and options for how best to manage that.
And what is their timeline to kind of get to the decision side of those issues?
So I think they're hoping to make a recommendation to you by late winter, so that if indeed some changes are taking place for the new season, that you would have time to respond to those and get that in place.
I know Bion is setting this up. Are we having people there from the state?
Yes.
Okay.
So there'll be folks from Coastal Zone Management Division as well as DEP.
Okay, good.
So
So
they'll
the
be,
experts.
yes,
will
they'll be
really
making
there.
presentations.
Great.
Yes.
And how long is that expected to
long?
That's gonna easily take a couple of hours, if not 2.5, I would guess. I'm anticipating a pretty full house. We'll see what turns out. Obviously weather dependent and all that good thing, stuff, but, there's been a fair amount of discussion, sort of around town about it.
Yeah, I'm planning on being
I was
here.
gonna say, I think if we can, whoever, we don't need a quorum for the 16th because we're just listening to the
Right.
FinCom
Yeah.
and the school, so if a couple people wanna go to
That's
that,
fine.
and a couple people wanna do FinCom, we'll divide and conquer and report back to the full committee on it, so that would be good.
So I think it'd be helpful if you and sort of be eyes and ears and just really get the tenor of the meeting and the different, there'll be lots of different opinions on this one.
I wonder if we can, tape it.
Yes,
Or Will, good,
Yeah,
all right,
we're
that's
having,
good.
Oh, that was.
we're having
The what?
studio.
Oh, record it?
Studio 1623.
That would be good to have.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think Ryan's getting that set up.
Perfect. Great. Anything else from you? Or good?
Good. Oh, thank
I
you.
was just gonna bring that
Oh,
up.
yeah, what time?
Thank you.
There we go.
8:45?
Mhm.
So I think it gets underway at 9,
At
what we're
9.
anticipating.
And here.
Here, yes.
Yeah, I've got to, I want to be here, so I'll probably for a little bit. But I have an appointment in the north, but so if I can come be here from 9 to about a half an hour or so.
So that'd be fine. The first half hour would be fine.
That's-
Okay.
That would be
Uh,
great. If anybody, even both of you could come and just sort of,
Yep.
you know, mark the occasion and know that the board's not great, appreciate it. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's showing support. It's and it's telling the reviewers that you feel very confident in what of the work that the department has done to get to this stage, and you're excited about the possibility of being accredited.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else that we have on our list that we haven't covered tonight?
Yeah, I just have one piece of paper for you to sign.
And then I've got this to pass. I did want to know, was
Oh, okay.
was anybody able to find out why we're still not up to date on the minutes? Online?
No.
I just,
I'll stop by tomorrow.
or I can, I'm going to be here in town hall, I can ask her, so whatever's.
So just with the holidays, she might be a little behind schedule, perhaps. I'm not sure.
There was one in the middle that was online, but then there were pretty significant gaps in the minutes.
Yeah, let's just make sure we get those good. All right, without any other comments, we'll finish signing. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Do we need to? Are we assessing? How do we want to do this?
Yeah, I would recess the meeting until 8
Recess
o'clock up
and
in
we'll-
Essex.
We'll reconvene at 8 o'clock.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.